when you were young in New Haven with your family, what kind of day trips would you take during I believe it'd be during the Depression?
Yeah, right. Well, the main day trips were, of course, in the summer. You very rarely traveled in the winter. And so we used to go to several beaches. The main beach was called Woodmont. And started going there at a very young age. As a matter of fact, eventually we bought a cottage out there. But with my family, and we used to go to Pleasure Beach in Bridgeport, but my family started going to Hammonasset State Park. And we went out like for once in a while. Then they used to have camping out there. And this was camping with a tent. Now, this was pre-trailers. And so we started going out there for the weekend. And we had camping equipment. And they would rent you a floor, a wood floor, and give you an outhouse. And after several years of doing this, they felt it was too much work for the weekend, so we decided to go out as what they called a season camper. We went out and we stayed 2 months, and it got to be a family thing with a couple of my aunts, and one of my aunts, her husband, my uncle, was a salesman, and 2 months of the year he worked in Connecticut. As a matter of fact, he used to stay with us. So she came, and then his boss, who lived actually in Hamden, he came. So we had about 4 or 5 lots of people, and the men usually either went to work every day, or sometimes they left on Monday morning, came back on Friday, and all us kids stayed out there and spent the summer there.
So what years would that be?
Well, I could tell you that the last year we were there was 1941. Okay. Labor Day weekend is when it closed, because they closed the park in 41 due to World War II. And, well, by that time, a couple of my cousins who were involved in this were already going into the service. They were older than me. And so I can't remember what year we started. Probably in the mid-30s would be my guess. Mm-hmm. As I said, and we had bought equipment. We had tents. We had it's kind of hard to even talk about today, but we had cots. They were canvas wooden cots, and we had a stove and a lot of other stuff. And we had a trailer, which actually my uncle built. It was just a wooden box on an axle that they bought. But in 41, we left it out there. We used to store it every winter anyway. In 41, we left it there. At the end, after World War II, 46, I went out there with my father. It was all rotted out, so we just left. That was the end of it. Everybody was scattered by then anyway. So that was our big thing.
So you had a car, Mark, in the 30s?
Yeah, my father had a car because he was in business, so he, as far as I remember, he always had a car. This was not true, like, of a lot of friends of mine. When I got into high school, I got very, very friendly. I was close friends with about 5 other guys, or 5 or 6 of us, I don't know. There's only 2 of us surviving now. And believe it or not, there was only one other friend of mine whose family had a car. Because a lot of people, as far as work, they get on the bus, the trolley car, and go to their shop or whatever. And I don't know what they did for weekends. You could take a trolley to Savin Rock or to the beach all the way to Milford to Woodmont. You could take a trolley car there, and we had done that sometimes when the car was not available. But the other thing, as I said, there was other places. There was, besides Savin Rock, there was Walnut Beach in Milford, which was like a miniature Savin Rock, and as I said, there was Pleasure Beach in Bridgeport. This is all my as a kid, but that was about the extent of it. And sometimes you just took a ride around, like on a Sunday. I say, okay, let's pile in the car. We're going to take a trip to North Haven.
Yeah.
Well, even in those days, Hammonasset, which was pre-highway, Hammonasset out of New Haven was 45 to 60 minutes.
That's true.
You had to go US 1 all the way through all the little towns. So.
Now, when you'd go to stay camping at Hammonasset,
Yeah.
uh, who did all the packing to go? Who did all the driving?
Well, as I said, we went about 5 families, and everybody did their own. As I said, we had this box trailer. We threw everything in there, I guess including the food and the tents, everything were in there. And as I said, it was all packed up from year to year, or from
Okay.
weekend to weekend. It was packed up except for the food. You know, it was the usual thing. The men did the heavy work, the women
Yeah.
did the cooking, and one of my uncles rigged up, besides his tent, he rigged up some other canvas type things so that we had like a kitchen area. And we never ate together. Everybody just went in when they ate when they wanted to, you know. But as I said, that was that. Of course, that was a great time, you know.
Yeah.
A big thing that I remember, I guess I was about 14. Get up in the morning and go for a swim. We were about a mile from the water, actually. But walk down, take a swim, then come back, and boy, do you have an appetite for breakfast.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that Woodmont section of Milford, I know because I did a survey where we researched the history of the summer synagogue in Woodmont,
yeah.
which now, of course, is used year-round and has a
Yeah,
congregation.
right.
And I always, the reason, obviously, the summer synagogue was there was enough of a Jewish community in the summer right there in Woodmont.
Right.
And I have heard it referred to as Bagel Beach. Have you
Bagel
heard-
Beach was one of the nicknames because it was mostly Jewish people who went there. It had several restaurants. The one that was very well known was called Sloppy Joe's, and that, I mean, as I said, in my day, you know, I went there, of course, as a teenager, and you were there. You go swimming all day, and you rent a locker, you change, and at night you have supper at Sloppy Joe's, and you hang around, and even 11, 12 o'clock you went back in for a Coke or something, you know. The place, I don't know when it ever closed, but that was the popular spot. That was just, well, have you been out to the synagogue when you did
Yeah.
the synagogue? Well, you know, the road split there, and on this point was Sloppy Joe's. To the right was the synagogue.
Okay.
You know, as a matter of fact, I did an interview out at the synagogue. One of our members is a past president. And the other thing, besides the summer, sometimes we did ourselves, post-war around 1947, we purchased a place out there. And we weren't out there that long story, but we were there maybe 5 years. And if the Jewish holidays, which always come at different times, if it came early, like early September, we would stay out there and go to that synagogue. You know, we would attend it. And but as I said, it was strictly summer. At that time, I think now that they rebuilt it, it has heat in it. But at that time, they had no heat. So,
Right.
you know, a little while after Labor Day, they just had to shut down. And not too many people. There were people even at that time that lived there year round. But most of those houses were just a shell. They were not insulated, and many of them, like our cottage, had no inner walls. You know, so that was.
Now, did you ever feel any discrimination or in where you'd stay out there?
Out there?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no, that was like a 95% Jewish area. Now there was other beaches there too. Later on, when I had my kids, we still used to go to Woodmont, but we went to a different park. We went to a park called Anchor Beach. That was a little bit different, but I never felt any discrimination out there.
Okay, great. So after the war, were you old enough you were old enough to have a car then? Obviously, you were in the service.
Yeah, but I was not rich enough.
Oh, yeah, so obviously you'd been in the service, and
Yeah.
then you got out of the service, and,
Well, I got out of service and I went to college on what used to call the GI Bill, if you've ever heard of that.
my father did that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and while I was in college, I got married, and after we got married, we got a car. You know, a used car. Yeah,
What was your first car?
I'm trying. It was about a 1938 or 39 Plymouth, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it probably had a huge trunk.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, it was a coupe, so it had a big
Yeah.
trunk. We only had it a year or two. I mean, it was just, like fell apart. It was need too much repair. And
Yeah.
actually went for a year. Well, I can't quite think of the sequence. Probably went about a year or so without having a car till I bought another car. But as I said, also in those first years after the war, it was hard to get a car.
Right, right.
I mean, you had to know somebody to get a car, and I don't know when the new cars started coming out. I think they called them 47s. I'm not sure. I think that was about the
Yeah.
first one. I can't quite recall.
So you were married and had a young family and had a car, and what kind of road trips would you take at that stage?
Oh, well, once the kids started growing up, I can give you, these are some of the places we've been to. I couldn't remember all the names, and I discussed it with my wife. We
That's
know
okay.
the places. We had been to West Point. More locally, we've been here a couple times. The American Museum of Art up in New Britain. I don't know if you're familiar
That's a
with it.
beautiful museum.
I like that place. Another thing was the Cartoon Museum down around Greenwich area, maybe even Westchester. We've been there. We used to take trips like on a Sunday up to Lyman Orchards in Middlefield.
Uh-huh.
And
That was
then-
when your kids were little?
yeah, this is all when the kids were
It's like
little.
a drive in the country, they
Yeah,
used to
right.
call it?
Well, see, driving, it's not the same today. Driving used to be relaxing. I would love to get in the car. Not today.
Yeah.
I don't like to drive. We've been to the Amish country in Pennsylvania. And we used to go to New Jersey a lot because my wife went to school and we had a lot of friends. So we did a lot of things there. The only one I really remember is there's a Thomas Edison Museum.
Oh, yeah,
in
in
West
Orange. Yeah.
Great place. Also, one of our day trips here, this was even later when the kids were born. When how can I explain this? When I first retired from my regular job, was the story why I retired. But anyway, after a few months, my company called me back, and I had a situation where I said I'll work part-time. So on the days that I didn't work, my wife and I would take day trips around Connecticut. And there's a Hirschfield Museum in Ridgefield. I think that's his name, Hirschfield. The guy who did the cartoons of Broadway stars.
Yeah.
I forgot his first name. I think his last name was he Harry Hirschfield? I don't know why.
I don't know.
Can't quite remember.
Howard, maybe.
I
I
can't.
don't know.
Anyway, another place for swimming so was Wharton Brook in Wallingford we used to go. Before I even get to the 1964 World's Fair, as a kid I went to the 1938 World's Fair.
Oh, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I went there a couple of times. I had an uncle in New York. My mother had a brother who lived in Manhattan. My mother came from a very huge family. And he was married, had no kids. So I would go down and spend a couple of days with him, and he took me to the World's Fair. He used to go by train. I don't think he had a car at that time.
Now, did they have that in the same location in Queens that they had
Yeah.
the later one?
Yeah, the 64.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's funny. Later on, I took my kids to the 64 World's Fair.
Now, that 64 World's Fair was so popular.
Yeah.
We have a good oral history from somebody else that went when he was about 10. His
Yeah.
parents took him, and I know a lot of Connecticut folks went.
Yeah.
Did you go for the day? Did
No,
you drive
well,
down?
here's what we did. Again, had another uncle. My mother had another brother. He had a summer home in Rockaway, far Rockaway, New York. And I told him I wanted to come down. And let's see, believe it or not, he was my uncle, and how many years? He was about 15 years older than me, but he married very late in life. So he had kids the same age as my kids.
Oh, yeah.
So I said, let's go together. So I said, come on down, you'll stay with me, and we'll go. So we went alternating days, because he lived at the beach. We'd stay there, spend the day at the beach, next day we went to the World's Fair, next day relaxed and back. And we did that for like about a week with him. So the kids, we got to see pretty much of the 64
So,
World's Fair.
there was the Futurama building, which was the GM building. That was sort of the world of the future. Did you go through that one?
I think that's the one where I knew somebody who had GM stock, and because he was a stockholder, he got me a couple of passes. I believe that's the one he got on some kind of a train.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I said,
Yeah.
It's funny you brought back my memory.
And then they had the different countries and the
Yeah,
different food from the different
yeah,
countries,
yeah.
food and music.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so-
well, as I said, we went there, spent the day. Again, we didn't drive over. This uncle who lived in Rockaway in his entire life, he died not too long ago. He was 99 years old. He never drove a car in his entire life.
Oh.
He was a typical New Yorker.
New Yorker.
Whenever we were by train,
Yeah.
you know. And he always had this thing. I used to kid him. I'd say, how about going here? Oh, I'm there in 19 minutes. Nothing was ever even. I could get there in 11 minutes. You know, that's the way he lived his entire life, you know, the car.
Yep.
I mean, eventually his wife had a car and his kids had a car.
I have a daughter that's in Manhattan, and she doesn't have a car. And
Yeah.
the fact that she doesn't have a car makes it affordable for her to live in Manhattan. If she had the expense of a car, she'd never be able to afford her
Yeah,
apartment.
right.
So,
Well, when I had this uncle living in Manhattan, and he was a big executive with some company. He had a real big job, so it wasn't a money situation for him. Because he also had a summer home. I don't know if you've ever heard of Greenwood Lake, New York. It's up on the New York-New Jersey border. He had a nice place there. By that time, I don't know how to get there. Maybe he rented a car. I don't know. See, you could only get there by car. But all the years I can remember, at least when he lived in Manhattan, I know he never had a car.
Yeah. So now you've been to 48 out of the 50 states.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, a lot of people, most of the time you fly now.
Right.
But did you take any long road trips?
No, I was never, I mean, I told you, I didn't mind driving, but I set this rule with myself. I just made it up. If I can't get there in 6 hours, I fly.
Okay.
That was the limit of my driving. And I said it at some point, not early on, but I have a married son who lives in upstate New York, and it's 6 hours to him.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I even wanted to fly there, but it was too complicated, to get to him.
Now, did your parents or relatives ever go to any of the Jewish resorts in Connecticut or in
Yes.
New York?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
My mother and father, there used to be a resort. It's funny, I met a lady from this town recently. We were talking about it. There used to be a resort in Lebanon, Connecticut called the Grand Lake Lodge.
Right.
Yeah. So it's funny, I met a lady from Lebanon about 2 weeks ago. She tells me where she's from. She says, "You probably never heard of it." I said, "Oh, yes, I did." They used to go there practically every year, I would say. And then certain years, then they also went up to the Borscht Belt, the Catskills.
Mm-hmm.
They went there, and sometimes they would even go up there for the Jewish holidays. As they got older, to avoid all the work of setting up and doing whatever, they went up there. So,
Now,
we've been there.
Grand Lake Lodge, that's one of those resorts that's pretty low key. It's pretty. Oh, well, it's got the water and a small beach, and it has lots of things like lawn chairs and
Yeah, and they have a pool. They had a pool there.
Pool and
They have a pool.
outdoor activities.
Yeah, all those
right?
places have those activities. That's the big joke of those. They have a social director, and they keep you busy. That's the point. They keep you busy all the time.
Right. So you've always got
Well, there's
and-
always things to do if you want to do them. You're not
Yeah.
required, but they all have a social director. As adults, my wife and I would say we used to have a bridge club for couples. We played bridge and we saved money, and we used to take trips with this group, and almost every other year, we used to go up to the Catskills, as a group.
Now, would you go to the bigger resorts that had the nightclubs, or would you go
Yeah.
to the bungalow colonies?
No, I never went to a bungalow colony. I mean, I've seen them. As I said, there's still some. When I go up to visit my son, we go up Route 17. You still can see some of the bungalow colonies, but we always stayed in the bigger resorts with the nightclubs and the shows and all that kind of stuff.
Do you remember any of the names?
Hmm?
Do you remember any of the names?
Well, there was the Nevele
And the Nevele was a big one.
and
Yep.
Grossinger's.
Those are big ones.
We've stayed at both of those places. Oh, there used to be a place called the Granite, Granit. And we went there quite a few times. We liked that. But eventually the owner sold out, and instead of being like a Jewish resort, it became an Italian resort.
Oh.
So we're going to stop going there. I recall seeing some people who became famous. And then it's funny, not long ago in New Haven, I don't know, maybe the Federation, somebody sponsored a program. It was at the Schubert Theater, and they had about 3 or 4 of these entertainers. And I couldn't believe they're still around, these guys from the Borscht Belt.
Yeah.
But no, that was the reason we went, was to Well, in those days, we used to go dancing in the nightclub and, you know, everything, you know what I mean? That's what we went for.
They're famous for the amount of food and the good
Oh,
meals
yeah. Well,
and,
that's never a big thing with me, but it's there. You
Yeah.
eat too much, definitely.
okay. Now, what would you say, do your kids fondly remember all these trips?
Yeah, yeah. I only have one son who lives in the area, and I was telling him about this the other night, and we were talking about it. He remembered the World's Fair in West Point and the Amish country. You know, I forgot where else we took them, because when they got out of the house, we as a matter of fact, that's when we started bigger and better traveling. Once they were out of college, you know. Oh, I don't know if you're familiar with this, Marion. I can't think of the name. In Farmington, I think it's Farmington. Is that where Miss Porter's school is,
Yeah.
in Farmington?
Yeah.
There's 2 museums there.
The Stanley Whitman House and
What was the other one?
the Hillstead.
That's the one I couldn't think of. The Hillstead.
Yeah.
I love that. We love that place.
Yeah.
I've probably been there 5, 6 times.
It's
As a matter of fact, when
beautiful.
we first started going there, you could just walk in and walk around by yourself. Now, one of the last times I went, you got to go into an office and get a ticket, and then you go by guide only. I suppose that's what they had to do,
Yeah.
But when we used to get company from out of town, the reason I went there, so we used to take them there because I really loved that.
All the beautiful French paintings, Impressionist
yeah.
paintings.
Well, I have to tell you something. In our travels, as I said, I've been all over the country, and the way we used to do it, we'd pick a spot where we want to go for one reason or another. Are you familiar with the Elder Hostel program?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
did a lot of those, but when we would fly to some area and then we go on tour, and then on every tour they say, well, you got the afternoon off, do what you want. So I can't understand this. It's not a feminist remark, but the women, let's go shopping. My wife and we'd find a museum. I remember we were in Chicago once. Everybody, I want to get some shoes. We went to the Chicago Art Museum, which is like the Metropolitan.
Pat and I, we just went last year.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
What a great place. Why
Yeah.
are you shopping? You can buy shoes in Hartford or wherever you're
Yeah.
from. I never understood that that theory at all of shopping because you're traveling. Anyway, so that's something that we've always done.
Well, that's great. Could you just tell me a little bit about your matchbook collection?
Well, I guess at one time I was a smoker. Maybe that's why I wanted a matchbook, but I haven't smoked in 40, 50 years, maybe more. And just started picking them up no matter where I went. You know what I mean? They're not. I kind of glance at some. Of course, there are a lot more restaurants and hotels and that, but there's other stuff. I have a matchbook cover from this one. I remember, like my pride and joy, from the summer White House of Harry Truman in Key West.
That's neat.
And some others. I happen to notice one from a restaurant in Alaska. So I've got them. I didn't include those initially, but as I said, I've got them. You can have them. But I don't know. I just started collecting. The other thing I found, I should have mentioned this to you. With my matchbook collection, not that I was ever any big drinker, but I got a lot of mixing sticks.
Oh, yeah, swizzle sticks.
Yeah,
We would, well, if you can loan me those, we'd love to have those
Yeah,
too.
I can get them to you.
Yesterday we got a set of these plastic hors d'oeuvre forks from the 1964 World's Fair.
Yeah,
They're like the miniature
yeah, I know what they
version of
are.
the swizzle sticks,
Yeah.
and we haven't gotten any swizzle sticks yet,
yeah.
to stir your drink, but I think human beings in general just like to bring home souvenirs.
Well, I'll tell. Well, let me tell you. I always bought some kind of a picture. Very often, I bought a poster, from where we've been, and I like having it, but we ran out of wall space. And rather than take pictures myself, my picture taking consists of my wife or people we're with. So I always feel I can buy better pictures of scenery. And I used to buy like a collection of postcards from a town or whatever. I have it. I've got good pictures. I don't have to worry whether they come out or not. That's in the film days. And so this is the way I did it. But I eventually ended up just buying postcards. And most of them, I can't give them to you. I got them framed, hanging on the wall. I got the Arch of St. Louis. I can't remember. I have so many of them, you know. But I ended up buying postcards because they were smaller.
It's funny you should say that, because I used to buy, as an architectural historian, I used to buy postcards everywhere, because this is before the web, before
Yeah.
you could look for photos on the web.
Yeah.
Because like you said, they'd have better photographs
Yeah.
than I would probably be taking
Right,
myself.
that's the way I felt.
So
yeah.
I had a pretty good stock of postcards, because I wanted the architectural
Yeah.
pictures.
I'm not sure if I still have these somewhere. And you know, very often they came in a booklet. Remember, you used to get a whole booklet. You have like 10 pictures.
Yeah.
See, with our downsizing, and I used to take a lot of pictures and stuff. A lot of our stuff is in my daughter's house. She lives in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
We had no room. We had very little storage space. I'm in a condo now. So my son-in-law very nicely built me a whole bunch of shelves in his basement, and I got cartons and cartons of stuff up there, including pictures. And another thing I did with the pictures, which if I could find them, very often when we got to somewhere, I always take a picture of a sign, the name of the town,
Oh, yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. And another place I did, another thing we got into, I don't know how many years ago, we got into cruising. I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise.
Not yet.
I love cruising. We've been on about 17 or 18 cruises.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got off the ship, there was always a name of a town, you know, whatever the place was, St. Martin or whatever it might say, St. Thomas. And I always take that kind of picture, you know. And it was somebody had information on it, like, you know, population or geographic measurements, something like that.
Now, were you ever part of the Jewish vacationing in Florida crowd?
Not
Or you
really.
like to go to different places?
Well, that's number one. I was never keen on Florida. Well, we got time. I could tell you a story. Where I used to live, where we were in our house, one of my neighbors goes to Florida, and he likes it. He buys a place. So he tells it to another neighbor of mine, who's a close friend of mine, and he goes down there, and he buys a place. And he says, "Hey, Marv, come on down." So we go down. They had a big place. They had a 3-bedroom condo, Delray Beach. So it's like I'm in his area down Delray Beach. It's all my neighbors, everybody from Hamden. Wow! But I didn't like the lifestyle.
Okay.
I don't know. It just all rubbed me wrong. But more and more people. I mean, we've been there several times, and one time I was down. It was so cold. That's how I got to Key West. I said, "It's too cold here," so we went to Key West to get warm, you know. And then I had another friend who eventually moved to the West Coast, Clearwater, and because he had a daughter there. And I've been down there to see him. I liked a little bit better, but the whole thing is like, hey, it's 4:00. We got to go to supper. That's
Yeah,
I mean,
you're kind of a get-up-and-go guy.
yeah. Well,
I think.
and we liked going to different places.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we went there. I said we've been down there many times, and these other friends wanted us. Later on, another friend of mine moved down to Delray, and but I was never interested enough like to buy a place. Let's put it that way. And I'll tell you a place we did like. And if my kids were not in the Northeast, I would be living in California.
Oh,
See, we always had this joke. My wife, her name is Mitzi. Mitzi always said this: on my gravestone, she never got to California. So somewhere around 1980, we finally got to California, and we went to San Francisco, and then we got on a tour. We toured the whole coast all the way down to L.A., which was a great way to do it. It was like a 6-day trip. You know, you really get to see it. So we liked it so much. About a year later, we went back, went to San Francisco, and we went north through Oregon and Washington State, same way.
I'd like to do that too.
Great trips. In the meantime, I had a cousin in New Jersey. He had 2 sons. They both worked for Hewlett-Packard. You heard of them. And they both got transferred to California. So they were both retiring. So they moved out there. Well, we were very close. He and I were very close. Once they got out there and got settled, we went out. And actually, we went out there every single year for about 6 or 8 years. I just stopped going a few years ago.
Yeah.
My cousin since died, but his widow is there, and we still went out to see him, see the boys and everything else. And while we were there, as a matter of fact, when she became a widow, she didn't want to drive the freeways. So once I was there, we would get in the car, go. We always went to San Diego. I love San Diego. And one time we went down to Mexico, which I'm too fond of that. But we went to other parts, up into Central California, and so we did a lot of traveling through the whole state, from the south to the middle of California. And where she lived, I just loved her as a boy. As a matter of fact, we got to the point actually where she lives in a condo that they had a deal, like if you want to buy there, they'll sell your house back east for you. And I actually talked to the agent at one point, but then we decided if we come out here, we'll never see our grandkids.
Yeah.
They'll never come out here, so that's what kept us here.